and welcome. I'm Melinda Akinlami. Tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari thanks Nigerians for their patience in enduring the current fuel scarcity, orders operators in the oil and gas industry to end hoarding and price inflation by marketers. Group Managing Director of the NNPC, Mikanti Baru, says the price of petrol remains 145 naira per litre in spite of a higher landing cost for the product. Nigerians continue to bear the brunt of the long queues at petrol stations across the country. And a Christmas service takes place in the Iraqi city of Mosul for the first time since members of ISIS were driven out of the region. Abuja, where the President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed his regret over the hardship being faced by Nigerians over the current fuel scarcity across the country. The President, who expressed his thoughts on his Twitter handle today, says he has directed regulators in the oil and gas industry to step up their surveillance and bring an end to hoarding and price inflation of petrol products by the marketers. He says, and I quote, "The fuel scarcity being experienced nationwide is regrettable. I sympathize with all Nigerians on having to endure needless fuel queues and being regularly briefed, especially on NNPC's interventions to ensure there is enough petrol available during this period and beyond." End of quote. The President also thanked Nigerians for their patience and understanding, saying the situation will improve soon as new shipments and supplies are distributed across the country. In the meantime, the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Mr. Mikanti Baru, is insisting that the federal government is making sure that the cap on the price of fuel is 145 naira per litre, despite the landing cost, which is 171 naira 40 kobo per litre. Petroleum marketers have complained that they are unable to import fuel as the landing costs of the product exceeds the federal government's fixed pump price.
10:30 p.m. Saturday night in the Federal Capital Territory. There are a line of cars queuing at this petrol station hours after the station has closed for the day. This is an attempt by Nigerians to beat the endless queues which will most likely resurface on Sunday. Daylight returns in the capital city, and so do long fuel queues at petrol stations across the city.
I was here since a few minutes after 9 a.m. this morning. This is almost 3:23. I have not. I'm still waiting.
I thought maybe by now fuel will be like maybe 18 naira or 15 naira as he promised. But you can see they remove a subsidy entirely. Now we are still suffering again for the fuel.
The Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, convenes an emergency meeting to brief journalists on what government is doing to address the situation.
In addition to the regular supply cycle, NNPC has programmed the delivery of additional 300 million litres for the rest of the month of December, and also increased that in January to beef up the national reserves to guarantee 45 million litres per day.
But analysts maintain that the NNPC is overwhelmed as petroleum marketers have refused to import fuel.
The government is reassuring Nigerians that the price cap of 145 naira per litre, irrespective of the CIF landing cost, is guaranteed. So marketers should play within that margin. So obviously profiteering is setting in. And greed.
Although Mr. Baru is assuring Nigerians that the NNPC has enough stock of PMS to take care of the needs of the country, these reassurances are falling on frustrated ears as Nigerians continue to contend with biting hardship as a result of insufficient fuel supply during this festive season. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
The excitement that usually comes with the Yuletide season is almost completely absent in most parts of the country as Nigerians spend days and nights in long queues at the few filling stations where the product is available. The situation is complicated by the activities of black marketers who are desperate to make a fortune from an already bad situation.
For residents of Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, in addition to concerns over security, they also have to contend with the non-availability of fuel. For several years now, this has become a predictable pattern at this time of the year. A night drive around the busy Maiduguri-Kanu road, which has the largest concentration of petrol stations in the city, shows that the stations sell PMS to black marketers at exorbitant prices at night. Efforts to speak with some of the station managers were rebuffed, as none was ready to talk. In Niger State, north-central Nigeria, the trend continues, as motorists there are having a tough time accessing fuel. Long queues are seen in most parts of Minna, the state capital.
I was here around 7 to 8 this morning. Here we are. If not for those people that came here, we will have not entered here. I think what is happening is artificial created scarcity of fuel. Because I can see that the fuel is there, but they lock the station off.
The Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, in Niger State has, however, rolled out the machinery to tackle possible hoarding of fuel by marketers.
Anybody who has product should be able to sell it at government-approved price and correct volume. That's why we go with our Sarafin can.
The long arm of the law has caught up with the owner of this filling station in Ilorin, the Kwara state capital, for dispensing fuel to black marketers. The shady business was busted after surveillance by men of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps. The petrol attendant notes that he's only carrying out the orders of the owner of the station, who took to his heels on seeing the officials of the NSCDC.
This is economic sabotage and is creating hardship on the citizens.
In Oshogbo, the Osun state capital, many other residents had to resort to traveling from Lagos to Oshogbo by train. With the free train ride provided by the state government to beat what they describe as exorbitant fares of road transportation.
When I got to the park this morning, you know, the money is just too much. I don't even know about this train stuff before.
In most parts of the country, it's the same narrative, as the situation is dampening the festive mood, with some residents forced to shelve their plans of traveling for the Yuletide holidays. The federal government has promised that the long queues will soon disappear. Nigerians can't wait to see that happen as they continue to battle with the reality of the present times.
The presidency has been reacting to criticisms over a documentary highlighting the softer side of the president broadcast today. The documentary, which has been aired today with a repeat broadcast tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Channels Television, has been slammed by the social media, especially with the hardship being experienced by Nigerians. However, the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Mr. Femi Adesina, insists that Nigerians must look on the bright side of life at all times. According to him, and I quote, "The current fuel crisis is a combination of snafu, situation normal, all fold up in the distribution process of petrol, which the NNPC admitted at the onset of the problem, and the deliberate mischief and sabotage by some marketers who want to force the hands of government to increase the pump price. Then, the situation is further compounded by hoarding of products and panic buying, and government is working round the clock to restore normalcy, which will come in a matter of time." End of quote. As the gridlock in the Apapa area of Lagos lingers, the effect on residents and businesses gets louder with the mounting complaints. While the blame game continues, our correspondent Chris Alems reports that some stakeholders are asking for a serious review of the dry port system to service the hinterland.
The streets of Apapa bear the mark of the siege by the trucks and tankers that has befallen them. Empty buildings with so many more set for sale as owners and residents are no longer at ease.
We're in the GRA now. The commercial aspect of Apapa, that's the warehouse road, wharf road, is bereft of any level of commercial activity. Even banks are starting to leave Apapa. It is that bad. I myself am on my way out as well.
Businesses continue to quake under the pressure of a gridlock that has refused to go.
Most of my containers has arrived the seaport for the past 2 months now. Some of them have entered demurrage. We could not see a truck that will pick all the containers outside the port, despite all the duties and the necessary clearing process have been done because of the gridlock. There's no sufficient vehicle to enter the port because of the bad road. Now, to even get out of the port is another nightmare.
For this logistics entrepreneur, the Apapa gridlock runs deeper than the poor state of the road. He says the shipping lines are culpable.
We need the government to set up a committee to look at these shipping companies that are bringing containers into this country and see how many containers they take back with that vessel. If you come with 10,000 containers and you go with 10,000 containers back, in 3 months, in 2 months, this road will clear.
A recent survey by the Shippers Council of Nigeria shows the rings of the port in Apapa have at least 4 times more trucks than it should ordinarily cater to, making it almost impossible to ply the routes.
Government directed shipping lines to create container holding bays some years ago. They were supposed to look for land in and around the port area where they can put their empties until they are ready to evacuate them. Some of them complied at that time, but right now, most of them don't have holding bays. And that means they are using our access roads as their holding bays. They keep empty containers on the trucks that bring them, standing on the road for days and weeks.
However, in 2006, the idea of a dry port system was birthed by the Obasanjo administration with an initial 6 locations in mind, namely Funtua, Jos, Isialangwa, Kano, Ibadan, Maiduguri. This was meant to serve as the hinterland, foster development and save the country from national embarrassment as currently being thrown up by the Apapa gridlock.
Because the state governments give land for this project. These are projects of the government, and they are being concession on what is called a BOOT basis, build, own, operate and transfer.
Thankfully, the inland container depot in Kaduna is set to commence operations with the support of the state government. The concessionaire, however, thinks there is more to be done to get the maximum impact of the dry port system.
We want a dry port at the hinterland, and we don't have rail facilities. It will be difficult and it will be too expensive to run. Because the purpose of establishing this dry port is to make the cost cheaper for the people at the hinterland.
While these dry ports are at various stages of completion, a drastic measure is needed to save Apapa for now. It is regrettable that not much has been done to actualize the execution of critical projects such as the dry port since it was first mooted over 10 years ago. For now, the gridlock continues and the government appears helpless. Whatever is required to curb this lingering siege must be applied now before an entire import-dependent economy comes crashing. Chris Illems, Channels Television News.
In part 2 after the break, in continuation of our review of the year 2017, tonight we take a look at the National Assembly. Stay with us.